Hi.
Okay.
Hello. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, yes, it's very clear.
Uh,
Mr. Mitja, how are you? Good.
so it's right now. It's like half past 4 here, and
Okay.
I'm in Paris. I'm in Ljubljana in Slovenia.
Yes.
So thank you for having me. Welcome everyone.
Yes.
So maybe I'm presenting right now, right?
Yes. Thank you very
Or
much, Mr. Mitja. You may start the presentation and greetings from all of us from INNODEL committee. That we are it's very privileged for us and our pleasure to have you here, especially it is in this very early morning. I think it's in Slovenia time, or I don't know. Or in
it's Slovenia time. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, you may start the presentation right now, Mr.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Jermol, and for the Q&A session, we will uh, do it in the end of this plenary session. Perhaps it's in the next half an hour or an hour. So to the audience, you may put the question in the chat box and don't forget to put the name as well as the question who is asked for or the address to the keynote presenter. Mr. Mita Jermol, you may start the presentation now. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Fauzi. Again, hello to everyone in Indonesia and all over the world, if they're in as well. So my name is Mitja and I'm based here in Ljubljana in Slovenia. It's a small, teeny country in Europe. We are 2 million, but nevertheless, even if we are 2 million, we are very strong, quite strong in developing and applying artificial intelligence technologies. So my role is at the institute, which I'm presenting here, is several folds. So one, of course, is that I'm the researcher on artificial intelligence, and the other one is that I'm also the UNESCO chair on open technologies for OER and open learning. And so today I will be putting this hat on, so discussing to you, talking you to about what we do here in Slovenia and globally on how we implement open education, how we implement artificial intelligence to open education. So, as I said at the beginning, so this is us. So the Artificial Intelligence Lab at the National Research Institute in Slovenia. And we do a lot of things, of course, in particularly in developing added value tools based on artificial intelligence for all over different sorts of scenarios, from smart cities to um, to medical, pharmaceutical, business intelligence. So a lot of things, and as well AI for education. And today I will be talking about how we actually approached to moving the AI to education, and this actually led us to set up also the first international research center on AI, on artificial intelligence, that I'm also representing, which of course is the one opening now doors to international collaboration, which would be either on AI and research, AI and deployment, AI education, and of course AI network. So this is what we do. So more or less is developing all sorts of AI technologies, so from statistical machine learning up to deep semantics and reasoning, and everything that we do are really concrete implementation, concrete deployments of solutions that are bringing added value to any of these different sorts of scenarios. But what I will be talking today is about the education. So we actually stepped into open education early in 2000 when we started to create our own repository for open education resources. In that time, that was just open videos, and we created the one of the largest portal of scientific talks. It's called videolectures.net, and that actually brought us into the arena of open education. So that would mean starting to understand what open education would mean, starting to understand what open education resources would mean about the licenses, and of course, all these connections that we have with the UNESCO now directly. So, and the case was that we said, well, if we really want to do that, when UNESCO was asking us whether we would be willing to set up the UNESCO chair, we said, yes, we will, but we really want to make change. We really want to make something which would really work and which would really make impact globally. Because today, as how we are running education is more like this. So what we're running is actually a mechanistic system of education, and we are not adapting the system to individual. We are doing differently. What we do today is actually we are trying to optimize the educational environment. That would mean that this educational environment is not really suited for everyone. It's just suited for let's say majority of the people, but not for everyone. And what we are thinking about and what we want to do is actually something which is a completely different thing, creating a education and environment that would be adapting to each particular individual. And this is not a very simple, it's a very complex thing. And of course, this complex thing takes quite a lot of different aspects. And one of the different aspects is, of course, that if you want to do this transformation of education, then it's not just about our idea. It's not just about the willingness to do that. It's about really making things happen from the bottom line, which is the proper deployed, open, global, effective infrastructure, which with a lot source of AI technologies. On the top, relevant policies, so policies that actually can allow to open education, and then of course various different projects from the content development, application development, engagement, awareness and training, cultural change, and all these things. And how we started to do that in 2012, when we set up the UNESCO chair, was that we said, let's create several of those elements. So, and one of those I will present later on is global mentoring program, which is called Low Communication for a Better World. And of course, the complete master degree program to create leaders on open education, for which I think you might be also very interested in. So this is how we approach to the changing education as holistically. So let's start with the first one. So the platform. This is a line of activities, a line of software elements that we actually developed, and we are putting all those into a holistic ecosystem. So on one side, you see the automatic ingestion, cleaning, fusion, structuring, processing of materials, global materials, in any language, in any forum, in any modality, with a proper license. Then we are building up methods and tools to do user modeling and understanding. So how actually on the other end users are perceiving. So, and when you have both of those, then you can create automatically or semi-automatically career paths that you can actually then use to create the adaptive learning education environment. And here are just bits and pieces of these technologies that we are developing, that we developed, and we are putting now into something which is a coherent ecosystem. And this is, of course, always global and it's always open. So everything what you will see, whatever that you see here, is actually openly accessible. Now, what's happened, of course, is that if you think about how many of this automatic ingestion, so how many of the elements that are constituent elements of the educational systems are there, then you will find out, for example, something like this. And this is one of the selection of it. So the number of schools in the world is more than 1.5 million. The number of higher education organizations, more than 20,000. Number of commercial distance learning environments, more than 700. Number of virtual laboratories, more than 150. So those are all, you see, those are all elements of the educational infrastructure that are there in the world. Now, the question is, what if you would be able to have access to all of those? What would that mean for you? What would that mean for each particular individual? And of course, this is something which is not very easy to grasp. You know, there are billions of those things. There are millions of different sorts of elements, different sorts of policies, different sorts of languages, different sorts of cultural backgrounds that you have to understand, that you have to grasp in order to make out of this something which is a coherent educational environment. And then on the other hand, you have millions of now of different educational applications. Then you have to understand that personalization, when you try to adapt, to make system adaptable to individual, it's not just about content and it's not just about methods and tools. It's also about the mentoring and assessment. It's also about the guidance. It's about the motivating. It's about the goal. Then you have to have the when you talk about the openness, it's about not just about the infrastructure and content, but also methods and services, programs, added value models, policies. So all these things are existing there. And if you look at the openness of what the openness would mean in open education, is not just open universities, open education, open content, but a lot of other things as well. So if you put all these elements I'm describing here into one pocket, then this becomes a very, very complex environment. And of course, the question would be, how can everyone, or how can we actually grasp all this complexity and make it usable? And here the AI can bring the value. So this typical triangle that we are looking at, so learner, information, content, and teacher, human and which could be either human or machine, and the learning channel, those are the things that we are actually addressing with the AI. So on one end, content structuring, information understanding. So it's not just about collecting, it's about understanding what's written in this content. What is there, what is the didactical, what is the pedagogical value, automatically. User modeling and assessment. So it's not just about what is the background knowledge of particularly the student. It's also about what are his beliefs, what are her goals, aspirations, types of learning. So all these elements which makes things adaptable and in particularly unobstructive in a way when you are saying that the system can help you. And of course, then we are playing quite a lot with real-time personalization through AI support. Now, first set. So this is the existing thing, which is called X5 It's a project now running. We are automatically collecting educational materials across the globe. We are structuring all these materials. All are open educational resources. We are structuring those materials through cross-lingual and cross-modal semantic processing. So we are essentially, what we do, we are automatically translating all these materials right now in 16 languages, and we are adding languages bit by bit. Then when we structure those, we collect and structure those, and we assess them, then what we do, we try to assess what is the quality of a particular content, because this is one of the things that you as a teacher and us as lecturers are always trying to grasp. So understanding the quality of those materials, which one will we choose? And then what is the pedagogical and didactical value? So these are things that we have the platform already ready running. Then it's open and accessible. Then user modeling. So trying to understand how users are actually perceiving content. What is going on the level of this mass amount of people learning online, trying to make benefit out of it through different sorts of analytics. So from process to migrations to competency modeling, compass models calculations. So here is one screenshot of the tool that we are having. This one is the competency network automatically calculated for the Slovenian public administration. This one is, for example, the for each particular individual, we are calculating automatically what is the social network, that is competency network. Then we are deeply involved into creating the global micro-credential and qualifications environment through, of course, here we are using blockchain as well, but through collecting and merging all the competency standards which are existing right now, and there are many of those. And there's a complete mess because again, there is each particular organization is developing its own quality standards, and that would mean that there is that you cannot use them if you don't match them. Then on the other end, micro credentials qualifications. Here again, we use plenty of the existing standards that we automatically match through semantic technologies, and now this is something which we are testing through the UNESCO. Then when we have all this, then of course we can create learning pathways for each particular individual, for each particular context. for many of different sorts of topics. And of course, at the end of the day, the open content and unobstructed machinery that can actually help you in a natural language processing way, teaching you. So you teach the machine, and machine teach anyone else. So collecting information for all over the world through communication with users on one end, and on the other end through collecting all these materials to create this global open repository of content with all the services. So this is one part. The other part is the global mentoring program. So this was actually something that struck us quite really, certainly, because it was an idea, and this idea started with the problem, right? The challenge. And the challenge is that you have people around the world, which is not usually only teachers, but people around the world that understands that something which would be an open educational program or open educational source, that this is something that could certainly help addressing one of the global issues. Now, when you talk to these people, they were usually telling you, well, I know if this I would have on my disposal, that would be benefit for the globe, but I don't know how to create it. So the idea was whether can we actually connect those who are looking at and understanding that there is a issue that they want to solve through open education with the experts on the other end. There is a huge, we are involved, and you know them, right? So there is a huge community of open education resources practitioners that are there and able to help. And so that was the basic idea. So we said, let's create something which will be a training, a mentoring program that will try to solve one of the SDGs. So the question is, if you are individual and you think that something that you would create would address one of the SDGs, so the global dimension through education, open education, and should be point number 2, open education resource, and point number 3, it should be global, then this is something for this program. So how it goes? So this is a yearly cycle. So right now we are in the fifth year already. So it's a yearly cycle, and right now you can apply. So anyone here present can now apply for the mentoring program, either as an applicant, the one who will develop OER or is developing OER, or on the other end as a mentor, and everything is for free. So nobody is paying nothing. All the people are working for free, and at the end of the final day, so at the end of the yearly cycle, there is a OER present and available. Now, how this looks like in the beginning, so this was the year 2018 when we started it. We had selected 14 projects, and out of these 14 projects, all of those, you can see the distribution across the world. All of this was just more or less the piloting phase, because we didn't know how this would actually end up. But then the next year we have a formal call, and this happens. So we had 35 projects the next year. And then we continued, and then the next year was 80. So this was in 2020. Then we have to structure things into hubs. So 80 would mean that here we had 80 applicants, so 80 people across the world developing OER, supported with 120 mentors globally across the world. And this happens this year. So we just finished this year round, which would be 104 projects from all over the world, supported with 130 mentors all over the world, creating a concrete stuff, which would be concrete educational, open educational resources. Here are just some of these programs. So it's everything from, you see, open educational practices, language education, infrastructure, diabetes, OER for teaching and learning, literacy, fine arts, literature, architecture, effective English. So a lot of things. So people are developing a lot of things. It's just that usually these experts or these developers, they don't know how to approach OER. So this is why we are creating this group of projects, then supported with mentors globally to create those. And here how it works today. So those are hubs. So those are just hub coordinators. So the ones who are taking care about each particular region. So you see Asia hub, Euro hub, America hubs, and then we have also some specific hub because we are trying to test every year we're trying to test new ideas, new challenges. So and this year the youth session, the one at the bottom, was quite interesting. So when we said to students, so secondary school mostly, to create OER for their colleagues, and that was very interesting. So this is what we try to do and approach further on. So as I said, so this is now more or less also the invitation to you. So if you really are stuck or trying to develop open communication resources, please apply at the website as a developer or as a mentor if you are a mentor, and then join the family. So here, as I said, we are right now counting more than 250 projects. There are more than 250 developers and more than 250 mentors involved in this large community. Then the other thing that we do, so if you remember the picture I had at the beginning, is the Leadership and Open Education Master Degree. So here it's not just a traditional master degree study, it's about creating a community of leaders in open education. Leaders in open education would mean the ones who are really there having capacity and capability to change bits of the educational systems in their countries. And here right now this year, so we started last year with 2 students again as a pilot, and this year we have selected 17 students from all over the world, and those are in most cases, those are decision makers who joined the program to really make things happen in their countries. So this is something again which might be very relevant for Indonesia as well. Here are just some of the lecturers, so you might know some of those. So there is, complete OER, UNESCO OER crowd, UNESCO OER chair crowd. It's international group of people, so something which really is interesting. Now, what we have also been involved, and I personally, this is the last bits of slides, so I was involved in preparing and creating the UNESCO recommendation on OER, and this was the OER recommendation, so probably you've read it through. So this was the international attempt, so together with UNESCO, quite a lot of politics behind, but certainly what we created is now the international recommendation that has been adopted by 193 member states of UNESCO, anonymously, everybody helping, everybody saying that we really want to make change in the education, make it open and available for everyone. And here are just areas of actions. And the document is quite comprehensive, so if you take it out, you can read what, for example, should be done at the level of the country, at the level of the institution, at the level of teachers, every stakeholder in education. And here is just one of the short timeline that show you that this is something which I learned quite a lot. I mean, it's a completely different thing when you go from the research to this thing which is called politics. So we started in 2016, and then it took me like 4 years of my life to actually came to the end. And well, quite a lot of negotiation stuff behind, and making something which is a globally accepted formal document through UNESCO is something which is very demanding, interesting, but I will not do it again. So here I conclude. We just briefly show you so that you have a kind of an idea what we do. Here are some of the links that you can test. So everything, as I said, here is openly accessible. Please look at the Open Education for a Better World program, because this is something which everyone can join. Everyone can join. It's completely open, and it's a very interesting community. Please also look at the master degree. So the next call for the master degree will be next year. We also have been successful in getting financial support for the scholarships students. And please also look at the technologies and tools that we're developing, and of course services that are there and that certainly are the ones who could help you in your daily work or could help you in your daily aspirations when you are trying to make changes in the education. So this would be my short talk, and I hope that this would bring some questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitja Jermol, for the presentation entitled Opening Up Education in Artificial Intelligence. So, Mr. Mitja Jermol has explained quite comprehensively about many practical applications, example, and organization that is related to the OER project. And of course, in the future, it will be very nice if UT and UNESCO can also collaborate on certain projects related to the OER as well. And we hope you as well can visit UT someday in Indonesia. So yeah, thank you very much for the comprehensive presentation. And we hope Mr. Mitja Jermon will still join us until the end of this plenary session.
Of course.
And we will have another keynote presentation as well from Professor Chai Yu from